Shahzad, let me ask you to open the debate for all of us. There is no denying of the fact that under the present government, the scientists and the scientific temper has got the kind of impetus it needs. But can one really deny the efforts that were taken by the Congress party or by the first Prime Minister of India, Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru? That's the key question Congress party is asking.
Well, that's a question that is steeped in absolute hypocrisy and in a kind of making an argument that for everything the credit should go to Nehru. It just doesn't hold true. I'll tell you why. Every leadership at that point of time when ISRO makes an achievement or the space agency makes an achievement, the scientific leadership and the political leadership of that time deserves credit. And therefore, to make this argument that Nehru deserves credit for everything that's happening today, I'll give you a small example and I hope this is answered specifically. In 2008 when Chandrayaan-3 went into orbit and then there was a moon orbiter that touched down onto the surface of the moon from part of India. It was not named after any great scientist or any great person from ISRO. It was named as Jawahar Point. And today when we have landed on the south side of the moon, a historic feat for India which no country including US has achieved, the name of the lander was Vikram lander named after Vikram Sarabhai. Anusha, those who are saying this is about credit wars should also then answer that why was the budget of ISRO 5,500 crores which is today 123% higher at 12,500 crores? Why were there 89 launches out of which 47 launches took place in the last 9 years? Why is it that there were 1.2 launches per year which has now gone up to 5.7 launches today? Why is it that the new space policy came about by which the private sector could contribute and now 150 startups have been started? Why is it that these things never happened before? And finally, if you just 10 more seconds, if you want to take credit for everything Nehruji, from yoga to everything credit to Nehruji, then take credit for the fact that UPA did not allow Chandrayaan-2 to take place. Take credit for the fact that ASAT was stopped by the Congress party in UPA. Take credit for the fact that you hounded people like Nambi Narayan and you put back India's scientific progress for a large period of time. Take credit for the fact that you did the Devas Antrix deal which was steeped in corruption. Then you have to take credit for that too. Look, every leadership, whether it is, just a last sentence, whether it is President Kennedy, who at that time inspired the leadership of NASA and the space leadership in the United States, or whether it is Prime Minister Modi hugging the former ISRO chief and saying, we will do this again, and today it's happening in 4 years. Every political leadership deserves credit, but to say everything happened because of Nehru is
I get your broader point, and you've raised certain substantial points as well. Mr. Kamru Chaudhary, let's talk about the fact that the first point that was raised by the BJP, that Chandrayaan-1 and the kind of naming that was done of that particular crater, it was called Jawahar, or the fact that the budget has been hiked by over 100%, or the new space policy which is being talked about, which is responsible for the private players to enter into the space sector, all of that is a giving of the present Modi government. Then why should any other political dispensation get credit for Chandrayaan-3? A straight up question.
Yeah, Anusha, first and foremost, the entire world along with India celebrated yesterday the landing of a Chandrayaan-3 in the moon.
Yes.
So it's not a case of one particular India or particular leader that shall take credit for it. Because we as Indians felt proud because it was our spacecraft. But it was an experiment done on behalf of the entire mankind. We are proud of that. In India, coming to the basic point, when you speak about taking credits, you see what happened yesterday, just that last 10 seconds, I believe, when the Chandrayaan was about to touch on the face of the moon, we had a pop-up of Prime Minister Modi on the screen. The entire nation was aghast that how come when we are witnessing a history, why did Mr. Modi have to pop up all the time? Why did he not let the scientists bask in the glory at that time? This is the point where we raised that it was not because of Narendra Modi ji that the Chandrayaan is landing on the moon. It's because of the scientific temper that was developed over the years by successive Indian governments that led to the successful experiment of the Chandrayaan landing on the moon. That was the basic point. Now you can question the policies of the UPA government, you can question the policies of Jawaharlal Nehru government. I can also question the policies of Narendra Modi government. Because there are a lot of issues that to be discussed along with Chandrayaan.
I've got one specific point from you, which is that 20 seconds roughly to the final landing, why was the Prime Minister's face popped up during those visuals that the entire nation was watching.
Simple
That's the only point you're raising, sir?
No, that's not the only point. Anusha, the basic point is that you are watching a climax scene of a movie and suddenly you come up with a advertisement on this, or a last ball final is there on a cricket match, you find out an advertisement. How do you feel about it? It's not a question of Narendra Modi ji that he is taking the credit for the entire Chandrayaan mission. Thousands of people have worked for the success of this. We all prayed for the success of Chandrayaan.
Right.
It's not that Jawaharlal Nehru started this program. It was always successive government's policies, the scientific temper built up over the years that we left.
So, sir, my last interjection to you before I bring in the BJP again and other guests also into the discussion, that if successive governments, including the Congress, is responsible for the good and bad that we have done in the space sector so far, then what's wrong with the Prime Minister of the nation coming forward in the most critical times at the most important moment? My question to you, and then I'll take in BJP on that.
Yeah, Anusha, you see, we always criticize Narendra Modi ji as one of the most megalomaniac and a narcissist Prime Minister India has ever seen. That was defined and that was successfully exhibited by him, by Modi ji himself yesterday. There is no denying the fact about it.
Let me bring in...
But yesterday this event was, the entire world was watching. Now you wanted to have your face pasted on our TV screens just at the right moment when the lander...
You've made your point. Let me take in a response from the BJP. Shehzad, a quick response from you. Then I want to bring in Mr. Jonathan Levy and Mr. Selva Murthy into the discussion.
Anusha, I take you back 4 years ago when the Chandrayaan-2, it was a successful mission, but the lander did not make it safely. At that time, the Prime Minister wasn't popping up. He was inspiring the leadership of ISRO, and his sentence and statement to a crying ISRO chairperson was, "Phir karenge." We will do it again. I back you. I am glad that the Prime Minister, just before we made touchdown, joined them to say, look, this is not just on ISRO. It is our collective endeavor, and if it goes right, the credit is yours. If it goes wrong, hum fir se karenge. This is the leadership that, whether it was President Kennedy or whether it is Prime Minister Modi, they give to their scientists saying that we are backing you. And by the way, how did Jawahar Point pop up in 2008? By that logic, it was Mr. Vajpayee who said, let's have Chandrayaan mission. So shouldn't it have been Atal Point? And look, this is not the point. The point is you should have named it after a scientist like we named Vikram lander. And Mr. Kamruzaman Chaudhary, for Pete's sake, stop making such childish arguments. You should tell us that today the manner in which Mr. Nambi Narayan was hounded, the manner in which the Chandrayaan-2 was postponed for political reasons. Do you have any specific answers? Do you have answers as to why ISRO was not making any money? Today it has made 3,500 crores just by sending international satellites into space. Why wasn't all this done?
But
instead,
Shehzad,
you come here and you have a problem with Modi, but you take it out on ISRO.
As I insisted with the Congress about certain specific points that you had raised, Mr. Kamru's entire argument seems to be hinging on the fact that the last 20 seconds, why did the Prime Minister had to hog the limelight? That seems to be the problem of the opposition party.
Anusha, let me pose a question this way. 20 seconds before touchdown, it was actually a few minutes back that he joined, even though he was from BRICS.
Yes.
Did he know that it would make it safely? Of course, we backed our scientists, but anything could happen, right?
Yep.
The fact is that the Prime Minister is an accountable Prime Minister. The Prime Minister wants to lend his shoulder and say that, look, this is on me too. If it goes right, the credit is yours.
No, and even the last time when we failed in Chandrayaan-2.
What a courageous man that he stands by his scientists.
And nobody questioned his presence when the Chandrayaan-2 mission failed. So I believe that's another point that I'll discuss with the Congress party.
Absolutely, they were ready to blame him.